Hello, everybody. Welcome to Conservatish episode 217 or 16. I always forget this. My name is Peter Feliciano, and wherever you are listening or streaming, make sure you subscribe, share, rate, review, leave an angry comment or a loving comment, whatever you want to do. You can also find merch like this shirt, It's Okay If We Disagree on Politics, is over at peterfeliciano.com. And you can support my podcast and my music, because I'm very musical at patreon.com/conservatish. Ladies and gentlemen, the wonderful Layla, aka Propaganda Fluent. Yay! Thank you so much for coming on the program, my dear. How are you?
I'm doing really well. So much propaganda to consume.
Yes.
It's like candy every day.
Yeah. Delicious candy that's going to murder us all. Where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Propaganda Fluent, like I'm fluent in a language.
Mm.
And then I have a podcast. So you can find me on Spotify. You can find me on YouTube, Propaganda Fluent. So I'm getting out there a little bit. I'm branching out.
Yeah, I saw you've been doing a lot of lives recently. You've been doing a show. What's your show about? And it's called Propaganda Fluent as well, by the way.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
called Propaganda Fluent.
All right.
So I am mixing in like analyzing pop culture with like looking at, I would say almost sort of like taking a educational look at the structure of logic and the structure of deception and mind control, all of those things that go into propaganda. Like if you understand what something is and its purpose, especially something as like non-tangible as thought, and as
Mm-hmm.
influencing people's thought, it's good to understand like how they build it and how they construct it so you can really start to see it in your own life, which is what we need.
Right. Definitely. So you go through different topics or the topics of the week, and you discuss or dissect certain aspects of that topic and how it might pertain to propaganda.
Yeah, like what technique they're using, like in terms of, logical fallacies, because as we know, propaganda is built on logical fallacies. That's why you're telling a lie, but you have to make it seem like it's correct because
Right.
people naturally want to analyze things and find the logic in it. But looking at logical fallacies, looking at how the mind actually works in terms of influencing it, like what you have to do to persuade the brain. Um, since I had a background in visual communication, I understand, and like also anthropology, I can understand some of the things that go into it, and we take a lot of things for granted, but the mind and our perception of reality is incredibly complex. And if some people know how to manipulate it at a certain level, we might not even notice that we're being manipulated at that level because we're only looking at, you know, one perspective. But it's very layered.
Right. Right. Absolutely. When did you get interested in this type of thing? Was it when you were in school, or was it before, or?
I think I've always been interested in it. Um, Probably when I was around 13, I got a book called The Logic of Failure, and I thought it was a really interesting book. And I also got the book White Bears and Other Unwanted Thoughts. And it just really opened my eyes to the fact that the brain and how it works is not as simple as we think. And
Those
I've
seem
always,
like those seem like heavy books for a 13-year-old.
well, they were heavy, but they were not textbooks. They were just, just books like any you get at Barnes and Noble. So
Okay.
they were focused more on like systems thinking. They were definitely made to be consumable. Let's just say that.
Right.
And I just always thought if, I'm a woman and there's so many people who have advantages, like I wasn't particularly wealthy when I was growing up or anything. I just thought, wouldn't it be great if I could just make people do what I want? So maybe I
Mhm.
should learn a little bit about that.
Right.
Come in handy at some point. So,
Right. Yeah, I've noticed. I mean, since I was a kid, as my in the more innocent or good ways, my mother, God bless her, said that I was a good leader. Right.
yes.
In when not used for good, it was my ability to propensity to manipulate or desire to manipulate looked like, stealing, lying, coming up with falsehoods so that I could get my way, including to counselors and teachers and therapists or whatever. And the process of manipulation, I think we all kind of have it. We all have our desires. They're all many times, depending on the culture, etc., are very tamped down, are very subconscious. Not necessarily we're even aware of what we're doing to try to talk someone into something or do something or whatever.
Yeah.
Was it in your culture or in your household that this type of knowledge, or was it literally just those two books made you start going,
Well, let's just say I had always had an interest in World War II. Sorry. I had an interest in World War II, and I thought it was pretty crazy and pretty interesting how they were able to get so many people to
Mm,
go along with an agenda in such a
right,
rapid time. It was
right,
really quick.
right.
And so, since I had that interest in World War II when I was a kid, like before the age of my teenagers, and then when I moved on, I said, "Hey, let me just further explore this." So I wouldn't say that it's something that I was. Well, let me not say that. My dad's incredibly manipulative. So, just I think that because I'm also like very empathic, I can definitely see where someone's coming from and seeing their
Right.
perspective. And it's 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 not just a this and that, like it's not a linear process to get and move energy and change people's minds and modify their perception of reality. So it's having the empathic aspect of understanding what people want and what they need, and then seeing how you can slowly shift that. I think it just became more of a game in the sense that this is something that I want to engage with. And obviously, I didn't do it very often. I didn't really start practicing any type of propaganda until I entered the corporate world. And then at that point, it was like game on.
Right.
So,
And in what ways, when you entered the corporate world, in what ways was that? Because obviously, because that's the other aspect of my manipulative skills I used in sales for a long
yeah.
time. A long time I worked in sales, most of my 20s.
Hmm.
And um and it was me talking someone into something that they actually do probably want and they actually do need and would benefit their life, but I also need the money and I need to survive. So it's a little bit of mix. Some people in sales, get a bad rap unnecessarily. Some of them absolutely deserve it, and I could go on for there. But
Hmm.
sometimes people need to. What's another way to put it? So sometimes people need a subconscious excuse to decide that they want what they already want, because they're hiding their intentions from themselves. They don't want to seem shallow by wanting this really high end phone, but they really are shallow. So they need someone to massage them into getting what they want. And that way they can blame it on the salesperson. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Some women want to be dirty, as an example, and and they need a man to, like, oh, it's because I was drunk that I made that decision. Like, no, you just may have been dirty. You know what I mean? You just may be a dirty person who needed dirty things at that moment. um so we all kind of have that. I agree with you that World War II issue was, like, the most interesting aspect to me is not, like, the most interesting aspect is obviously it came into a larger scope when Jordan Peterson started talking about it, or he talked about it before he was famous, about how all of us has a Nazi inside of us. All of us has an aspect of us that could have been, that Nazis were just regular fucking people. You know what I mean? That they weren't some weird. I mean, a lot of them were psychopaths, but that process of moving people over to, whether it's I'm just doing my job, or I'm afraid to speak up, or, well, they're just putting them in a camp, like they'll be fine. You know what I mean? Like, wherever along the line, that it was normal motherfuckers that helped that happen. That's what's interesting to me, because I see the darker side of me, and I see the
Hmm.
darker side of others, and I like exploring that and exposing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. It is normal people, and we're seeing that right now. and there's so many parallels in life right now. So um, it's definitely something anyone can fall into, and that's why I want to actively make understanding propaganda and manipulative tactics and all of these things, tangible for regular people, because it's not something that you see like on Instagram. It's not something, there's not like a twerking reel and then someone talking about like mental manipulation and like that's not something that we talk about. And if
Right.
we are going through this like great awakening, if we're going to have to choose between slavery and perpetual, technocratic um, slavery credit system and then freedom and evolution, we're going to have to address these things. We're going to have to grow up mentally and start to get to understand our shadow self and get to understand the subconscious mind and just get to understand, who we are and how we work and how we communicate in much more advanced ways. And
Right.
unfortunately, a lot of people are afraid of it because once you start going down that path, then all of a sudden some of the ancient teachings start to make a little bit more sense, and then the world is not just this simple place where you go to college and you get a job and you have a family and that's it. It quickly dives into, honestly, it quickly dives into the occult, because the people who are running this are like extremely dark occult masters. um,
Okay.
Unfortunately, because the occult is, honestly, it's just ancient psychology.
Right.
Like, you don't maintain a civilization for extended periods of time, especially in such a volatile, hostile world as it was in like ancient Sumer or ancient Egypt, unless you know how to control the energy and the population and the focus. And that's what people have been doing for a very long time, and that's what we call civilization. And
Right.
now we're entering a different phase with cell phones.
Right. Right. Yeah, I find that similar thing. Do you ever listen to the comedian Bill Hicks?
I've heard of him, but I can't. I've been
One,
on a Tim Dillon kick, so it's
yes.
like,
God
oh,
bless Tim Dillon. God bless him. So Bill Hicks talked about, because he passed away back in 93, 94, and he was talking about one of the things, many things. He was very into shrooms and very into psychedelics, but like using them for his, like for good, not just like, oh, I see colors. Like he wanted to get us. And he said that our next evolution in his theory is not another fucking thumb. He said our next evolution is mental. Our next evolution is allowing ourselves to let go of the institutions that no longer serve us. You know what I mean? Taking an inventory. Of course, that's tumultuous, but it takes people like yourself, like me, like people who I've talked to on my show, who are aware of themselves, aware of our histories, and are curious, and then looking at the patterns, and then realizing, okay, let's take inventory. What institutions work for us and what don't? What, especially the really big ones, and the balloon of bureaucracy goes, and then what's the pattern? It is always commandeered by douchebags and used to hurt a lot of motherfuckers. So how do we stop this process again happening?
mhm.
When you got into corporate America, how did manipulation look like to you at that point?
It's not. It sounds so negative when you say it like that, and I don't know. I guess I'm a bit what is that? Cold, I guess. I don't know. I've been accused that multiple times. But
Well,
I'm a
you
bit,
said something similar to yourself, to
yeah, I'm
manipulation.
a
What
bit
is the word you wanted to use?
to the point of, let's stop with the bullshit. Let's stop with the BS. Let's get down to what it is, because when you skirting around things too often, it's just a waste of time. We don't have time. But it is seen as negative because we live in this dualistic reality. It's either good or bad, and oftentimes they can be honestly neutral, and it's just how you apply them. So um, for me, it wasn't manipulating, it was just having things like confidence, which is the core of anytime you're going to try to change someone's mind. You have to actually believe what it is you're saying at
Right.
some level. Having confidence, presenting a clear argument, storytelling, using symbols, understanding what it is that they wanted, repeating what they want
Right.
to them in a way that's digestible, selling it, it's marketing it.
Mhm.
And that is all manipulation, but it's not for bad. It's not for anything negative.
Right.
It's going to help them. It's going to help me. It's going to help the rest of the world. And that's how I see it, and that's how it really is. But I could just definitely use it for evil. I mean, lots of people, use marketing for bad. So.
Sure. Sure. So it looked like marketing. It looked like conversations with subordinates or higher ups.
Yeah.
It looked like traveling and having conversations with people that you needed to have a certain wall up, but also allow, so it was a conscious thing
Mm-hmm.
going into it for you. It was very conscious. Was it worked on in school?
No,
Okay.
no, I don't think that you can like train a leader. I don't think you can train someone to, okay, this is how you take a room and make people interested in you. Because you have to first level, you have to get their attention.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. Our brain is constantly filtering out so much data and so many different things. Getting people's attention is incredibly important. And these people who run all this media and all of these things, we say these funny things like, oh, they're dark wizards and things like that. But obviously, what they're doing is they're just utilizing techniques to get people's attention. And then from there, they direct it.
Right.
So you can't make a leader, I don't think. I think you just have to believe ultimately in yourself and your objective. And then if you can align with what other people want and what they can believe and see in you, then, you can get things moving forward.
Right. So why do you think so many of them have chosen the dark side versus, and how
Because
much of it, what's the percentage? Okay, so here's the question, because I've also had some people on before. One in particular, we talked a little bit of, I can't remember the name of the call, but we talked about a number of different things, and I was in somewhat of a spiritual cult at some point too. So I get the benefits of, well, let's see, what were the benefits for me at that point? There was a consequence of not putting this person on a pedestal, this guru on a pedestal. There were the consequences that were sometimes vague, but were heavy when it came to not being a part of, right? There
Mhm.
were the benefits of fellowship with my fellow members. There was the benefits of feeling like you're doing the right thing because you hit a certain mark or you hit a certain goal, right? But for me, what's the question I'm trying to get to the point of
What's
why
the in
do
the dark side? Why choose the dark side?
yeah, because a
Yeah.
lot of motherfuckers, I mean, and yeah, why do you feel that happens?
Well, if you start to understand how energy is on this like lower plane of existence, because like obviously we're in the material realm, there's the mental realm where all our thoughts are bumping around,
Right.
obviously.
Right.
Um, in this lower plane, it's just a lot more tangible. It's so much easier to manipulate people through trauma than to manipulate them with like good, happy feelings. Like
Right.
that's just how it is right now. And so I think that these people feed on this negative, low vibrational meaning it's the opposite of the expansive energy of peace and harmony and everything like that. And they thrive on it and they just keep going deeper and deeper into it. And it's addicting and it's easy to digest. It's a little bit easier. If you're not a good person and you want to inflict harm on someone, it's going to be kind of difficult to use someone's happiness and like absorb that. It's easier to use and absorb someone's pain, to push
Right.
the message forward. I hope this makes sense. But basically, it's just if you're going to choose a pathway, the negative route seems to be the easier one because we already have so much trauma that you can attach to. And that's what they're doing. They're attaching, because there's two ways you can change someone's mind, basically. It's either through trauma or repetition. Repetition is very difficult to pull off. Like, if I'm only talking to you once, um, we might not talk again for another week or 2 weeks or whatever. It would be really difficult for me to try to change your mind through repetition if we're not constantly speaking. I can't, I
Right.
don't have your attention 24/7.
Right.
So it's a lot easier to do it through the trauma trauma embeds itself in our minds. Trauma is something that goes so deep. Like we all know, the whole idea of childhood trauma, and then we keep reliving it, all these things. So they use that, and then they use repetition too. So these are just the easier routes. And think about yourself. If you're thinking about, you want to have good habits, I want to go to the gym, I want to lose weight, I want to eat healthy. Those things are all good for you, and they're going to reward you with good feelings, but that's not going to get you to change your actions immediately. It's if every time you try to eat those
donuts,
those donuts, you get violently ill, like to the point where it's like, look, you can't go to work, you can't function, it's embarrassing. Then that trauma is probably going to get you to do it a lot faster than knowing that in 20 years it's a steady habit of eating donuts every week is going to lead to long-term neurological problems, because of all the extra sugar you've consumed. So it's just about the immediacy too. And just, I don't know, we've become kind of fallen beings. We're not thinking at that higher level.
I have a feeling though, because and I think maybe I mean everything we do is moving towards this because of my perception. My perception is that and I don't use this flippantly, although some motherfuckers do. Some say like, well, we're waking up. Yeah. Right. I feel sometimes that can be a little too pie in the sky, but boots on the ground, nature's going to do what nature wants to fucking do. It will find a way. That's where I look to, because, I say this too often. No, fuck it. I didn't say this on the last episode, but I said this in the live stream with We Outside. One of the things is nature finds a way. So Trevor Noah is an example. Trevor Noah is a vapid, talentless person, right? But he's risen because he knows subconsciously I'm black, and I said apartheid so many times. So people in Comedy Central go like, oh, he had a bad childhood, let's put him up. So it doesn't matter how unfunny he is. It doesn't matter how nobody actually likes him. He'll continue to have a career. But his ratings continue to go down, even though there's still an abundance of white liberals who watch him. So, or who believe in him. They like the idea of him, but they don't get the itch scratch, the humor itch scratch, the entertainment itch scratch, because nature finds a way. And that nature in their bellies that needs actual entertainment, actual laughter, actual connection, actual truth is subconsciously seeking out other things instead of Trevor Noah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Is what I'm saying? So
I definitely get that.
Yeah. So I feel like nature's gonna find a fucking way, even though its perfect example is communism in general. And maybe the dictators at the top had malevolence in their hearts and in their minds from the jump. But I think a lot of times, apparently, they had good intentions. But nature finds a way. That's a system that no longer works because of humans. It's nature that made that not work. Because whether it be marching people off into the gulag, or whether it be killing people in a firing line, nature finds a way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. It's the image and then the reality.
Right.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And also that type of like enslavement and bondage doesn't work long term.
Right.
When someone can see their chains, they're easy to break.
Right. That's why I have a lot more hope than I think not a lot, but I see some people in the I don't even want to call it freedom movement. It feels so corny. I hate corny shit. You know what I'm saying?
Can we rebrand this? It's corny as hell. I'm like, okay, it took me a long time to get used to the American flag, because like I was never saw myself as a patriot, and then all of a sudden I was like wrapping myself in the flag,
right.
Forget this, forget China. But it's just corny.
It is. But that's the thing. But that's the thing. A lot of cool motherfuckers. Look at the left. Trevor Noah is a perfect example. Cornball ass motherfucker. Nobody likes him. Nobody likes Jimmy Kimmel. Nobody likes Stephen Colbert no more. Nobody likes, you know what I'm saying? All these like fall in line motherfuckers, they're losing popularity. The badasses, i.e., okay, who's a bridge? Tim Dillon's a bridge,
Yeah.
right? Joe Rogan's a bridge, even though he apologized for using the N-word. All these people, they're a bridge between the old version of Freedom Patriot and the new version.
Yeah, the new version is going to be hot. It's going to be smart. It's going to be sassy. It's going to be able to read. Let's not forget, because the liberal schools aren't teaching children to read. They're going to be like
Right.
at fourth grade level, and all the
Right.
like freedom people are going to be able to like actually read books. Yeah, it's going to be cool. It's going to be full of people who question things.
Right. But that same, that song that was going around a couple months ago, it's still somewhere around there. Like, we will not comply. Like, I'm like, oh, God. Like, I did hip hop for a long time. I wrote and sang hooks for rappers around the country. I love hip hop. That's not, if every fucking song is about we will not comply, freedom, freedom, you're a boring motherfucker. I don't care if I agree with you politically. You know what I'm
But
saying? Like,
that's for the moms. No, seriously. That's for like the cool patriot moms.
And I hate to make them feel bad, kind of,
I'm not
but
making them feel bad. That's just who they're for.
it is what it's for. Oh, that's good. Yeah, and I'm looking forward to being one of the, because I've got some, bless you, Chuck.
Thanks.
I'm looking forward to being one of the cool motherfuckers because I'm actually really good at what I do musically and in podcasts and things like that. And I like and I can handle the attention as well. Is everything all right over there? What's going on?
Yeah, I'm just getting my mic. Is it working? Hello?
Yeah, you're fine.
Okay, cool. I thought it was like not working. Yeah, no, I totally cut you off, but yeah, we need people like you to definitely rebrand. We need some rebranding. We need serious like storyline. We need something that the kids can agree with and get on board with. And the problem is, and this is the other thing I keep facing, everybody's like, no, we need to be like puritanical. We need to have like, God and love. And like, look, they're not going to go from let me like rip out my baby at 9 months and sacrifice it to I love Jesus. Like, we have to have an intermediate step.
There's
Something
got to be right. There's got to be a place for the perverts. That's why I always talk
they
about this.
need
Is what
to
I'm saying.
twerk. What are they
We
going
need
to
to
twerk
twerk.
to?
We have and this is what I'm saying. I'm conservatish. Peter Feliciano is the bridge.
Yeah.
This is the only show in the motherfucking world where you can talk about Trump, 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 and then eating ass in the same episode. This is what I'm saying. But God fucking bless the gateway drugs. God bless Ben Shapiro. God bless Jordan Peterson. God
I
bless motherfucking
know.
Steven Crowder. Thank you, boys. Thank you and Camille Paglia. Thank you for bringing me to the other side.
Yeah.
Now that we all agree on the fundamentals,
Mm-hmm.
let me believe in God without having to wear a shirt with an American flag on it. Okay?
Yeah.
Can we do that? Can we fucking do that?
Seriously. Like, what are they going to twerk to? They
Right.
need to be able to twerk. Yeah, it's this extreme. It's like they have to have this like extreme. And it's like, this is not how you deal with people. Like, there's so many flaws in the conservative movement. Like, they act like an abusive boyfriend so many times.
What's an example?
In a sense that they deny your reality. They tell you what you're feeling isn't real. Like, for example, all of the trans kids and all the trans people right now. We know what it is. Anybody who probably watches those knows what it is, like knows what's up. But going up to somebody and telling them that their reality is stupid and doesn't exist and isn't real and is wrong isn't going to make them open to your perspective or open to your opinion. That's just going to instantly make them defensive. And that's all ego. And the conservative movement is all about being ego, like in the same way as it just the opposite, methods as the leftists. The leftists are all about ego. They're all about ego too. So it's like It's not about you. It's about how, this is the other thing. If you're a true propagandist, you don't give a fuck about what you think or what you feel or anything like that. It
Right.
is about getting them
Right.
to do and agree with whatever it is you think and you feel. And that methodology and the way to get to that doesn't come from you starting to tell them what you think and how you feel and all your opinions on everything. Like, they don't care. You make
Perfect.
it about them
Right.
to make it about you.
Right.
Yeah.
Perfect example, because I also want to get into that trans thing
Yeah.
too. But perfect example is it doesn't matter how many times you point out or different ways you point out to AOC that she's a hypocrite. She will never hear you. It doesn't matter how many times Eric Garcetti gets caught with his fucking mask off. He's not going to stop. They're not going to. Trying to hold up a mirror to those people is useless. But there is sometimes benefits in holding up a mirror to the people who like the motherfucker. Okay, maybe, sure. If they see enough times that the emperor has no clothes, they may be going, oh, okay, here's my chains. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
But
they
it
have to be in a
also,
different state, a different developmental process. Those people are psychopaths and they don't care. That's the other
right,
thing is like we keep forgetting this whole thing you might care, but maybe those other people don't care. They
right,
just might not care. So this whole high horse, it just doesn't matter. And the problem is too many conservative care about what leftists think about them and what, you know, how they're perceived. It's like, why do you care?
right,
It doesn't
right.
matter.
That's why I'm not, as an example, Mark Hughes, my friend, the comic, he said that many times. It's like too many comics or too many conservatives are afraid of being told, of getting called racist. They go like, oh, no, I'm not a racist. Like, it doesn't matter. They don't even believe what they're saying. They just are going to do it regardless. If you have 58,000, Larry fucking Elder is actually black. And they call him the black face of white supremacy.
But you
It
don't
doesn't matter.
understand. He is racist.
The
He has
bitch,
a white
the white bitch,
girlfriend.
the white bitch wore a fucking monkey mask and threw eggs at him, and the left was silent on that shit. Silent. They don't
That's how
actually
she
care.
chooses to identify herself. I don't understand.
As far as the trans thing, let's get into that. I like this.
Yeah.
Because again, this show is conservatish. I'm never going to be anyone, whatever. I have trans friends. I've had them on my show. One is called Josh Morgan. She's a comedian in San Francisco. Love her to death. And one of the things that, okay, let's get into the meat of the humanity behind someone, a conservative, who is flippantly dismissing the trans person. I think they're not actually flippantly dismissing the trans person most of the time. They are spouting an opinion that they wish they could have said to AOC and the propagandists and the psychopaths. They have all this emotion, which shows that it's a fallacy, shows that it's hypocrisy, shows that it's wrong, and they're just projecting, oversimplifying. Absolutely. Dehumanizing, sure, but I don't think it's malevolence. I think they're just a little dumb. Here's an example. They flippantly say things like, oh, they hate America. Like, no. Most of the white liberals I know who are part of the gas in the tank that is killing America have good intentions, or at least
Yes.
think they do. At least
Exactly.
think they do. So to say like, oh, they hate America. Like, no, that's not only is that exactly like you said, not going to change a motherfucker's opinion, it's also factually incorrect. It's not going to help bridge the gap between them opening their minds. It's the same thing of them trying to open our minds by calling us fucking racist every goddamn 5 seconds.
I know, like constant. It's like,
Right.
okay, at this point, there's obviously worse things. Like, God.
Right. I was watching that. That's what I was thinking yesterday. I was just like, oh, like I know there's worse black experiences. There's 41 million fucking black people in the world, but I don't, but I'll just say like, if the worst part of your black experience is someone touched my hair, woo-hoo, someone touched my bitch. The fuck are you? That's what you're complaining about? That's what you're voting for Joe Biden? Because someone touched your hair? Come on, man. Get over your fucking self. People have rubbed my bald ass head. Anyway, sorry, continue what you're saying.
I know. It's that whole Look, you have so many points that you just made. Telling a
I'm amazed.
liberal that they are wrong and what they're doing, again, because they believe in their heart that they are right, because people want to believe that they're right and that they are a good person.
Mhm.
You coming in with like a meat masher, like one of those meat things, like meat
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
cleavers or whatever,
yeah, yeah.
and just being like, no, you're terrible and wrong. That's number one, that's traumatizing them, that's breaking their reality. What is their ego gonna do? Their
Clamp down
ego
harder.
is gonna clamp down harder.
Right.
So, it would be much better to say, I understand what your intentions are, but let me explain to you how your thoughts are, your methods are going to ultimately lead to more enslavement,
Hmm.
and worse outcomes. And then you can walk them down that path and ask them questions and see where they are. Now, that requires a level of critical thinking that unfortunately a lot of these people lack because they've been demoralized. So this is the other thing. Before we go on to the touching the hair thing, um, these people who are conservative, they're also relatively lazy as well, because they're not going. They talk so much about the left, but it's like, come on, you haven't read, you haven't watched one video on psychological warfare, and you were talking about how you're going to save the country
Right.
from these people who are billionaires and
Right.
trillionaires and like
Right.
literally demons,
Right.
um who have access to all information of time and space, like because they're
Right.
like living in a parallel dimension. That's being lazy. Like, why do you not know what demoralization is? Why do you not know about, well, have you read Sun Tzu? Do you know about KGB tactics? Do you know about any of these things? Have you even read about Goebbels? Like, did you even do that?
Mm.
Did you read about Churchill and his propaganda movement? Did you do any of that work? No, you didn't. You just said, I love God and I want to have, female and male bathrooms, god damn it. And that was it. That's
Right.
not that's not
Right.
enough.
Right.
And then for the people in the touching the hair thing, it's like that's a whole level of lack of self-esteem
Mm.
that I don't know. I can't relate to it, because if someone did that to me, I mean, number one, I would just yank their hair back too. I would
Yeah. Yeah.
literally
Yeah. Yeah.
yank
Yeah.
their
Yeah.
hair. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
what are you talking about touching my hair, bitch? Your neck back so
Right.
fast.
Right.
Like, it's
Right.
like you project the energy and people treat you on the way that you project your energy out, unfortunately. And yes, there are incidents where people are just shitty. Like, I posted the
Mhm.
other day about this like woman who was going down a slide and flipped off a little fat little black girl. She had the little twists in her hair, and she's like a grown white woman flipping her off, like one of those Peggy Sue's or whatever. And it's like,
Sure.
yes, there are like truly shitty, racist, nasty people,
Sure.
but at the same time, you already know that, don't you? So why are
Right.
you surprised? And why is
Right.
that affecting you at an emotional level? Oh, it's because you're still invested.
Right. You're still insecure. When
Yeah.
I've gotten made fun of, me and friends tease each other, blah, blah, blah. We tease, blah, 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 blah. That's why I've never, I make jokes about being bald, but I actually enjoy being bald. So like that's why it's water off a bald back, Um, when someone suddenly gets that Achilles heel, something that I'm insecure about, all of a sudden it's like, it's pearl clutching time. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
those black people who are like, oh, don't like, oh, or attribute racism to it. Guess what, everybody? That white bitch who flipped off that black girl, do you think she's nice to white people? Do you think she's just a charm in every other
She's
aspect of life?
perfect. She's
She's
literally a goddess, except
right,
for that one
exactly.
incident.
Do you know how many black Karens there are? Do you know how many white people like this? This is you cannot just attribute a single moment to be that person's entire character. I'm not saying write it off. It was
Mm-hmm.
a shitty thing, but a shitty thing doesn't necessarily attribute intention or the whole of that person's experience or life.
Yeah, exactly. And ultimately, this is my thing. This is how I just always perceive that whole topic of racism. Let's just say, okay, you win. White people are the most evil people on the planet for all time ever. Okay, cool. We all agree on that? Okay. What are you going to do about it? Why is that still an issue? You already know that's a constant. If it's a constant, you can factor it out, and then you just make your moves around that. Like it's not something to emotionally invest yourself weeks and months in. Yes, we have to go through, like, I understand that you do have to go through a process of grieving, because when you learn about African American history and you're a child and you start to understand, and you really can, you really get to understand, because it is terrible. Anytime people go through like any of these events, like, it's bad, like
Right.
everything, like you can relate to it, and you go through that process. But you have to go through that process, you have to
Hmm.
transition out of it. Like every stage of grief, there's anger, there's acceptance, and you move past it. You don't just sit there being angry at people and resentful. You have to move
Right.
on,
Right.
because it's not serving you at
Right.
all. And you're not
Last.
going to make them feel bad about themselves, because I think that's what they're always trying to do. I'm going to
Right.
get back at them, and it's like they don't care.
Right. And they're not alive. They're not fucking alive. A lot of
Or
them are not.
if they are, even if there are some like bitch who works at the hair salon with me, it's like she doesn't care.
Right. And she's going to have to go through her own trauma shit. Do you understand the
Yeah.
people, like, a lot of the time, and this is, my experience in doing all the therapy and fucking spiritual work I've done, is hurt people hurt people. I know it's trite, but it's absolutely fucking true. Most of the people besides psychopaths who are hashtag born this way, a lot of the people who hurt motherfuckers have been hurt. They just have not been through getting through, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they project the frequency that they're already on.
Right.
Yeah.
So
And we all
it,
know white people have been hurt. Jesus, have you seen their history? Like, goddamn.
no, they haven't. No, they haven't.
It's been bad.
Everybody look up the Crusades. It's one
Yeah,
of the
no, that was
best.
fun.
Oh
Oh,
my God.
it was like cruise ships. Like, that's why they call it Crusades, because they were all on cruise ships.
Right. And what's fun about the Crusades too is that this idea of, and I've only read one book on it, but this idea that I already knew it before I read the book, but it was a great book. I think it's by Crusaders. It's and it goes through individual characters and talks about, it's not individual fiction, individual
Mhm.
whatever, and talks about perspectives and talks about the history of whatever. It's called Crusaders by Dan Jones.
Okay.
And one of the things he talked about was, and he didn't wax philosophical about how it's all the white people's fault. He didn't wax philosophical about how it's all Islam's fault. But the reason why the fucking English went over there in the first place to Jerusalem was because the Byzantine emperor was like, "Hey, we need reinforcements against these fucking Islams. So, you know what? I'm gonna call England." And England and the Pope was like, "Hey, he made it all about God. I need a war, so I'm going to make it all about God." And now all the English who want to be pious and want to get a reward in heaven, now I'll go kill motherfuckers who had nothing to do with that shit underneath. And the reason was because there was a brown people killing brown people all over the fucking place. That's why they called the fucking whites. You know what I'm saying? It's just it's thick, it's gray area, it's nuance. You know what I'm saying?
It's too much. It's too much. It's too much. It's a lot going on. My thing is like, oh man, I'm gonna get banned for this.
Oh, whatever. You're on conservative, girl. What do you
I
say?
know. My thing
You
is this.
okay? You okay going another like 15, 20 minutes?
Oh yeah, sure. I don't know when your cutoff is.
No, I'm good.
Okay.
I want
Yeah.
to actually get my vape, if you're cool with that.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. You make everybody really entertained while I go grab it. All right. I'm getting deep now. All right, girl, go ahead.
My thing is this. I got my vape too. And I have allergies today. My thing is this. Nothing exists in isolation. The conditions had to exist in order for people to be colonized. Like they had to be at the specific mental level, they had to be at the specific economic level, they had to be, all these different factors had to go in before these people could walk in behind the Arabs, mind you. Okay. Let's not forget about our lovely Arab slave traders. Like, I don't understand. How did that disappear? But anyway,
It didn't.
uh, exactly. It's still going.
It's still going. Yeah.
The conditions have to exist. So it's like, my thing is this: how do you lose a whole fucking planet? Because there were black people, there were brown people on this planet, for the majority of human existence
Mm,
all over the planet.
mm.
That was all there was. We've already confirmed that. So something must have happened. Either these people really are supreme, which I don't believe,
No.
or something went wrong that you literally almost lose the whole planet at this point, you know,
Maybe it was a
to
cosmic.
colonization.
Absolutely. Maybe it was a cosmic, because I've had thoughts about that too. I think
Yeah.
it potentially was a cosmic guilt similar to the cosmic guilt that whites are now feeling.
I think what it was, to be honest, was, everything goes through cycles.
Mm,
We have the spring, the summer, fall, winter. And I think that, for certain groups, certain races of people, they have their cycle and then they decay and they break down and then they're going to be rebuilt. So maybe what happened was, that's just what we're seeing. We're seeing part of that cycle. White people had a very short, relatively short and very, quick sort of cycle they went through. Um, so I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. I don't judge it. I just think that can we move on as quickly as possible because I'm tired of the shit. That's my thing.
right, because the thing is that it's the similar to when someone does their work and they realize, okay, I suffered a trauma. That's not taking away from it. But
Mhm.
there's a couple of different factors. Number one, are you wallowing in it? Then it's no longer your abuser's fault. I'm sorry, it's fucking not. I've known people who who have had horrendous trauma. I had, if you want to, you don't need to because
Mhm.
it's heavy, everybody. But if you look up the Good Girl's first episode, is the girl who's been on my show, Dirty Submissive, the good girl. Haven't had her on
Oh
in years, but
no.
and well, yeah, she was a filth bucket, love it or death. But one of the things one of the things she talked about was suffering horrendous sexual trauma as a child,
Mhm.
and yet she's the most spiritual, mature, one of the most spiritual, mature motherfuckers I know. Why is she okay? And yet someone whose daddy didn't give them $20 when they were 13 burning down the country.
Yeah. Or calling
It's
themselves a Maoist. Yeah.
it's a perspective. It's a perspective
Mhm.
and it's a spirit, similar to what you're talking about. Maybe my energy's not ready to move on. Okay, great. Put yourself in a fucking vacuum then. Don't vote. How's that? Like, that's number one.
Seriously.
And number two, what, just like you said, what are your definitions of a solution? Because okay, if we're all fucked and everything's and the white people are demon and blah blah blah, okay, lovely, lovely, lovely. Now what? If it's going to be taking
All
money
about
away from people who didn't actually hurt you, fuck you. Fuck you. How about me? I'm half Puerto Rican and half white. Am I going to pay 50% reparation? Like, what does it look like? You got to quantify that shit, because bully, again, hurt people. Bully is never satiated. Never, never, never. If it's in the
No.
energy of consume and make and punish and consume and punish, it is never done.
Yeah, it's about satisfying their ego now through seeing them suffer, which isn't going to happen because they don't want to suffer, so they're not going to. They're going to just keep it rolling. Um, yeah, and my thing is this: if they're so concerned about all these things, why aren't they catching a flight and going to Libya? There's slave trade right now. Like, I don't see any of these liberals catching flights
Right.
and being like, "Oh, we're going to go dismantle these slave dungeon things that they've already got going on." Like, they're not doing that. So it's like, come on, what's worse?
Right.
It's just,
And
it's frustrating. It's a
as a
waste of
window,
time. Hmm?
right. And as a window into that, by the way, everybody, it's not some abstract thing. Mauritania only on the books illegalized,
Yeah, made it
prohibited
illegal.
slavery
Yeah.
in 1981. And further from that, they did not actually make it illegal because they didn't make any legal consequences to it until 2007.
Wow.
And they only did that
Wow.
because the UN was on their necks. So,
Wow.
and they only listen to the UN because they need that fucking
Wow. They
benefit.
need the Skrilla.
Right. So realize what's
Wow.
going on, everybody.
Seriously, let's be objective. And this ties into propaganda. What are you trying to accomplish? That's what you say focus on, because the solution and the methods you're going to use to accomplish that goal, they're going to change and they're going to adapt to the people, the context, whatever. but you have to stay focused on what you're trying to achieve. And if you want to get out of this like bad system, you want to fight the patriarchy, all these things, just bitching about it isn't going to do anything. It's not. Because at the end of the day, they're going to still have their money and you're going to still feel like a victim. And victims are not running the world, unfortunately. I mean, no, not unfortunately, but they're not. It's incompatible. You're not going to ever be on top because you're a victim, because that's how you see yourself.
Right.
So,
Yeah. I mean, it's exactly on the micro as well. When I feel like shit about myself, I can't. Every girl I ask out, it just falls flat. When I feel good about myself, my energy's up and I'm good to go.
mhm,
So the reality is that micro is just the same as macro.
it
Human
is.
nature is human nature. It's going to do what it wants, right?
Yeah.
So if a certain group of people is not feeling that mojo, I've been able to detach myself from shit systems, from shit groups, from things that no longer served me, and it was scary. Some of the scariest shit I've ever done in my life, but I fucking did it, and I'm 100% better about it, and went without a safety net. Because it's never, by the way, if you're ever thinking about, well, I want to get away from this victim mentality, but I want to make sure that there's solid ground in front of me, it's not going to happen. Because again, not only is bully insatiable, so is fear. So is fear. If I'm coming from a place of it needs to be, I need a sign from God that says, Pete, you're going to be all right. It doesn't happen. You have to just leap from fucking faith. I'm sorry, but that's the way it works. Similar, I always go back to that analogy from, you're young. You don't remember Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, did you? Did you ever see that one? Oh, I can't hear you.
Sorry.
Oh, there you go.
No, I was literally just visualizing that as you were talking. I
Exactly.
swear to God. No, that's because they had the Nazis in it and everything.
Right.
So yeah, that movie, I was like, what is that? Why are they dressed so well?
And it's a Russian playing a German.
Yeah.
They always have fucking horribly dyed hair. Um, so in your reading about World War II, what's the stuff that really hooked you about that, and what parallels can you see, either, and not flippantly, I'm saying macro whatever, because I know a lot of like the patriots that you and I disagree with sometimes, but what parallels do you see in the propaganda, in the current situation, in the mentality of those following along, etc.?
I see the ruthless dedication to their ideals. And that's something I think that too many people in the middle unfortunately don't have. They're just sort of like going with whatever happens. So they're sort of stuck in the tug of war. But in terms of the Nazis, they were definitely focused. They spent a lot of time. I don't know if you know this. They spent a lot of time going through the whole world looking for esoteric teachings. They had a deep spiritual, like, sort of core philosophy that they were working from to build this whole master race sort of idea.
Hmm.
And so they had that. So it's really unfortunate that a lot of people don't have any type of spirituality, especially on the left. And then the people who do, claim to be religious, a lot of them aren't even religious, they're
Right.
just sort of doing it.
Right.
Um, so that was a huge thing. And that's something that we need to actually have, not in that sort of sense. The propaganda itself was just through films. It was so subtle. It was so easy. It was just so natural. Um, and they had no doubt and no fear about leaping forward. I mean, it's kind of a big deal to try to do what they did. It was pretty big deal. I mean, they were reckless. They were taking huge leaps, and I don't want to sound like I'm praising them, but it's true. They did. They did do that. I mean, when they
Right.
like, I just watched the thing. Oh God, this is gonna be so. Oh my God, the news clips that a liberal could take from this, be like, see, she is a Nazi.
Even
Oh,
you already coming on my show, you're problematic enough. Don't even
I
worry about it.
know, but I'm
Keep
already
it
I'm
up.
already
Do it.
problematic.
Do it.
But yeah, so I was just watching World War II in color. It's on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even know this because I'm into it, but I'm not like into it. But they got to France. The reason they threw everybody off is number one, obviously they paid off like a lot of the French military and stuff, but also they got to France in like 5 days because they stayed up for 5 days straight on meth. Like they were like, let's go, like literally, let's go. Not, they had the will and they had the
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 meth.
mental. They had the meth. They had. They were mad. They had to slow down. They were like, "No, you can't go to the coast. Stop!" Like,
Right.
and everybody at the time was like, they're here already. How did they get here? They thought they would take like a week because you walk and then take a nap and maybe you stay here a day and tour this grounds and all this stuff. But they literally just drove their asses over there. So it's like you have to have that fearlessness, whatever you're doing. And I
Right.
think that's the most important thing that people need to have. You can use that fearlessness for good or evil, but it was a huge risk and that propaganda worked. And luckily a lot of the counter propaganda that Churchill did really helped too, because that's what you have
What
to do.
was some of that?
Just talking, just saying these things aren't real, these things aren't true. This is how it's going to work. We're going to be able to make it happen. We're going to keep fighting. All the things to counter the message of the Germans, because the Germans use a lot of psychological warfare to intimidate their opponents. And this is the other thing that a lot of conservatives lack. And I'm only criticizing because we have to glow up real quick. Okay. Like
Right.
it's not
No.
going to be like a couple
No.
years. We don't have a couple
No.
years.
Right.
They don't want to engage at that level. They don't want to understand that all of this is mental. The world is not about tractors as much as it is about the concept of I can create a tractor. It's is much deeper than that. And yes, we have the physical world. That's great. But if you want to get shit done, it happens in the mental realm first. And if you don't follow that, if we don't look at Sun Tzu, there's a reason Sun Tzu's book is still around. He wrote that in the 10th century or something, like insane long ago, when China was still like a bunch of different nations battling it out together in like brutal history. That stuff works. It works. It
Right.
works. So yeah, we got to get it.
Yeah. When I saw, did you see The Darkest Hour?
I didn't see
Gary
the Dark
Oldman.
Tower.
It's
No.
it's it's a great movie, and I'm sure a lot
Mhm.
of it is fancied up or whatever. It's a movie, but one of the prevailing messages that I got, and that is the goal of it or whatever, is that Churchill, through all his doubt, put on the face at
Yep.
least of self belief.
Mhm.
This is what we're going to do. We're going to win. We're going to win. We're not giving up. We're not. And his cabinet, his fucking prime, like everybody was like, just sign a deal with Germany. We're good.
Yeah.
Just sign a fucking
He
deal
was
with
like,
Hitler.
hell
We're
no.
gonna die. And he was like ruthlessly digging his fucking heels in, and had to,
Epic.
and his battles in that movie, and I'm sure in real life, were not really with Hitler. It was with doubt. It was with doubt. It was with himself. It was with his countrymen. It was the leaders of his countrymen, and how these motherfuckers, even under good intentions, were just coming from a place of what is our job is to defend our people, and if we're going to
That's the
go into
easy
this,
way out.
yeah, we're going to take the easy way out. He'll move on. He will not move on. Bullies are
No.
never satiated, and it's exactly what he said in that. He said, "When are we going to learn that dictators you don't barter or negotiate? Yeah, you don't negotiate with a
Mhm.
tiger when your head is in its mouth." Like,
Love it.
you know what I'm
Epic.
saying? Yeah,
Epic. And honestly, they would have probably won and kept persisting in a lot of ways if they weren't doing like they Hitler was doing cocaine and heroin injections every day. Like these people were like
right,
you can't be that evil and like not need a whole bunch of shit just to make it through to lunchtime. So
right,
yeah, it also shows as a good example, they ultimately were there like they imploded on themselves. Their evil just like imploded on themselves. The natural correction sort of took over because yeah, America, we did a great job, everything. The Russians, they beat the shit out of them. But ultimately there was a few battles and a few like psychotically poorly planned moves that took them down, but they were oof, I mean, It was close, and that's a big deal to recognize that it's just about having that overwhelming confidence in yourself, and
Right.
you can achieve a lot, even if it's bad.
Right. And this is another idea as well that gets passed around, and I want to hear your thoughts on it. A lot of it wasn't just, well, what the Nazis did was not just intimidate their people, it was also give them promise, give them hope,
Mhm.
give them an enemy, right?
Mhm.
um the enemy was the Jews, the enemy was the West, the enemy was, like you said, we're going to leap forward, it's time for us to evolve. Okay, so all you cocksuckers who were like, oh, Nazi and Christianity, you're full of shit. Okay. He was an evolutionist first and foremost. Okay,
He
he
was a
was like,
eugenicist, yeah.
yeah.
He took a lot of
So
those from us, those
right.
policies.
So as far as the Germans, what did the German people get from, what were the benefits that they got from Hitler and the Nazis?
They got the belief that they were divine beings, they were superior. They got the idea and they got the proof that they could do anything that they set their mind to. Um, that was a very big deal. They turned that country around in a really short time. And they benefited from it for a very short time as well. But then they paid a really big price
Right.
for their sins.
Right. Was some of it the pain that, because I haven't dug enough into it, but the pain of the hardships after World War One?
Yeah, the hardships after World War One, the coming down. I mean, just like people were going crazy in those cities, like they imploded on themselves. Like you don't just go torture people and then come home and then you're not going to torture people. You're going to find a way to torture people. Like there's somebody I need to torture. Let me find somebody. So it
Right.
was a mess. It was a mess. And it's so unfortunate that we just, oh, they were just villains, whatever. And we dismiss it. And it's not, no, we're not kids anymore, you guys. We have
Right.
to understand in their mind, they thought they were doing something right. In their mind, they thought they were getting dignity back. In their mind, they were fixing the crimes of the past. They were going off of who they thought caused all their troubles and caused their poverty and caused them to not be able to live their dreams, whatever it is. So, unless you're going to emphasize with that, you're not going to be able to co opt that emotion and co opt that ideal that they want into the methods that you want them to pursue to reach that ideal, basically. If you don't know what they're trying to achieve, you can't co-opt the method that they're using because that's ultimately what you do. You go in, you say, "Oh, I want to be a good person. I want to be an anti-racist." Then let me teach you another way to be an anti-racist where you don't have to kiss somebody's ass and you don't have to talk about how you're a piece of shit white person. Like I know you don't want to do that, but you think that that's the only way you can be an anti-racist and it's like, "No, you don't have to do that.
Right.
Don't." And it's like, "Don't worry, honey. I'm sure when you were staying in those caves, whenever you were, that shit was hard. I can't imagine how like terrible it was in the dark ages. Like
Yeah.
we don't even conceptualize how bad it
Right.
was. Like
Right.
that's the reason like they talk about the patriarchy and all these things back then. If you're in a warmer climate, you can just like leave if that person's like not so good to you. You can go outside and let me go. You're not dependent on him for like every single thing. And like their area, if you get in trouble and he kicks you out of wherever you are, you're going to freeze to death and starve. Like it's like a very different reality. So it's like I don't know why I said that, but basically I'm just trying to say we have we
Yeah.
have
No, Ireland.
different
Ireland, not
trauma.
even right, and Ireland, not even that long ago. I mean,
Yeah.
in the 40s, by the way, in the 40s and 50s in America and in New York, they had no Irish allowed, no
Yeah.
Irish and no show people in New York. They had signs on doors of stores. It might have been the 30s. But what I'm saying is exactly like
Mhm.
100%. Everybody's got trauma. Everybody's got bullshit in the micro. Guess what, bitch? Everybody's got trauma and bullshit in the macro as well. And if
Bad.
women, women and women and women and women. Okay, would you want to trade? Because if you really knew what it was like in here, if you really knew what it was like on the streets, if you really knew what it was like in dating and sex, if you really knew what it was like dying, and the fact that 90% of suicides, I believe, are male, if you like, come on, there's benefits and there's drawbacks. There's benefits and there's drawbacks, right? So, and I'm not saying I would want to be a woman. I like my life. You know what I'm saying? I like my life. But okay, so you two more quick subjects I want to get into it, because we'll go a few more minutes and then we'll stop.
Yeah.
You said you got to understand the psychology and the goals, the ideals that the Nazis had. What do you think the goals and the ideals of the douche bags in charge now have? What do you think it is?
Oh, well, right now they're looking to what you're seeing, all of these different things that are happening, the different victim classes, the intersectionality, the anti-racism, the anti-men, anti-patriarchy, whatever it is, all of it is only working toward an objective that consolidates and centralizes power. That's all. They're trying to destabilize so they can centralize all power. They're centralizing power in your thoughts and how people think and how they can behave and react. And it seems crazy to think that it's even more extreme than it was in the past. But in a lot of ways, it's even more insidious, because it's not divided by like culture in the sense that this is a Black home, this is an Italian home, this is that, type of home. It's not decentralized at that point. Now it's just centralized to, I'm this victim, I'm in this victim bucket, and this is my leader. So they're trying to centralize everything, because when it's decentralized and you have nuclear homes and you have people loving each other and having, families and actually having sex. Because the other thing is, these people aren't having sex like you think. They're not actually. That's the main thing that pisses me off. I'm like, you're going to spend all this time writing chapter books, bitch. Chapter books on all of this gender and sex. And I don't think you have had good sex in a very long time.
In a very long time. You can see it in their eyes. When you've been with enough women, you know what happens. You think that it only manifests as cat lady? What do you think cat lady Karen is? What do you think of fucking somebody who's like, my child, I'm going to cut off my child's dick? What do you think that is?
Yeah.
It's a lack of value in my belly. It's a lack of energy. It's a lack of benefit. And then all of a sudden I get to be a hero. I get to, right. It's just, you need animal, like we said, nature finds a way. You need animal satisfaction.
Yeah. So it's frustrating. That's the most frustrating thing to me. I'm not going to have some crazy looking bitch telling me that I'm a cis something. And I'm like, you don't even use your parts. So.
And neither do kids, by the way. I've heard from multiple people recently.
So scary.
I've heard from multiple people that the younger generation is not fucking. Okay.
Yes.
And that the younger generation doesn't have friends.
Exactly.
I had a teacher friend tell me recently that she's a teacher and she's a college professor. And she said, most of the people that we talked about, like, what are your goals? What are your goals of coming to the school? And most of the kids, and it's not a nerdy school. So it's not nerds. It's not just dorks. It's regular ass motherfucking college kids. What is your goal for coming to this?
Ooh, what was that?
Oh my God.
Oh, sorry.
What are you doing?
I apologize. My computer is like freaking out. Hold on.
Okay.
No. It's never done this before. I'm sorry. You were spitting that fire. It just like literally shut the computer was like, oh.
It's because the lizards are listening. God damn it. They want to shut this down. Cocksuckers.
Yeah, no, they don't have friends. They don't have connection.
Right. They said what are your main goals of coming to the school? And she said like 90% of them is like, well, if I come to the school, maybe I can get more friends.
Oh.
Like these are college kids and they don't have friends. You know what I mean? This is really sad. And the other idea I was thinking as well is it's like whack-a-mole. When you just want to keep down blacks, you just push down on that mole. If we're all moles, if you want to keep down the Italians, you just push down that mole. If you want to keep down this culture, that culture, this class, this class, this class. But if we're all one fucking mole, you just push that one down. Right? If it's centralized power, you just push that one down and tape it down and put cement over it and it's done.
Yeah, you break them, you demoralize them, you break them down because the family unit is the most important unit because that energy, people have all this like hatred for, sex and sexuality because it's been so demonized, but it's like literally the energy that creates life and
Yeah.
captures the soul from wherever the hell the soul is. Like it's an amazingly powerful energy. And like honestly, so frustrating. It's like, could you guys just please have sex in a normal way with at least you can have you can have a max 3 props, but just
All right,
please.
hang on now. Let's not slut shame. God damn it, Propaganda Fluent.
But if there's too
Fucking
many props, it's like
I know what you mean. I catch the energy of what you're saying. If I throw in all these labels, if I throw in all this is similar to like I used to go to the BDSM scene in San Francisco, and I got immediately turned off because I'm like, number one, a lot of these motherfuckers are D&D kids. Okay, they don't have anywhere else to go. They're not fun and fuckable. They have all these fucking rules like, oh, it needs to be safe, sane, and consensual. All
I'm
right,
gonna write
yeah,
you a
okay.
letter.
Right. And you need to, would it be okay if I touched you? Ugh, nobody fucking likes that. Imagine asking a girl, can I kiss you, bitch? Nobody likes that shit. So, but again, it's that same vibe. I have all my tools, but I have no dominant bone in my body. I can tie a bitch up, but I have no idea how to get her fucking mind. You know?
Mm-mm. It's messed up.
Here's the next part, and then we'll shut up.
Yeah.
What's the solution? What's some solution for you?
Solution is to get your Joan of Arc energy, get your Cortez energy in the sense of we're gonna burn these motherfucking ships, bitch. Let's
Yeah,
go.
baby.
Like get that energy up. And I think that patriots do, like a lot of patriots have that energy. And do the work that's required. Don't just stay at the level that you feel comfortable at. Why don't you look into what Satanism really is? Why don't you actually learn what that is? Why don't you actually learn what they're doing? Why don't you actually look into it? Do some ethnographic research. What is ethnographic research? What is propaganda? What is social engineering? What are systems? How do you manipulate a complex society into doing what you want? Take the time to get outside of your comfort zone because the people who founded this country, they were Masons. They knew a lot about humanity. They knew a lot about the occult sciences. They knew a lot about Christian values. They knew what needed to be done. They studied with the different tribes, the native tribes. They got out of their comfort zone. That's the whole point. They left their home and went to a place to establish something that they thought would be better. That's not going to be easy, and it's not going to be fun, and it's not going to feel comfortable. So that's what we need to do. And we need to understand that things take time and we need to be subtle about it. And we can't just start yelling at people like we're all dealing with our teenager at home. You don't do that. You don't act like a parent. I know it's comfortable and it's easy for some people, but you have to get to a point where you can relate to them, empathize with them, figure out what they want, and then use that against them.
I like that.
I don't know.
I like that. I like that.
But
I
change their mind.
right. And I will add that sometimes that doesn't mean don't be angry. That doesn't mean I don't think
No.
don't be flippant. That doesn't mean kowtow. That doesn't mean give in. That doesn't mean
Mm-mm.
okay, I'm not now Dakota. You know what I'm saying? You don't go down to their level and like now, we said we can't get it if they're throwing a tantrum. I always say it this way: if someone comes in my comments and they disagree, I'll hear you out. We'll
Mhm.
talk and I'll explain my side. If you come in racism, then you will feel like a piece of shit when I'm done with you. Okay. Because I'm fine with meeting you at the energy that you're willing to meet me at, or I'll fucking ignore you. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not insecure about being racist because yeah, I'm a little racist, but not like racist. You know
Everybody's
what
a
I mean?
little
Like
racist.
everybody's a little racist. As Patrice used to say, is racial. I'm a racial. I'm not
I'm a
racist, you know.
racial. Yeah,
But
I
meet
agree.
I agree, meet people on or try to get them with logic, with understanding, with doing your research, with doing your inner work. Hello, everybody should be fucking meditating.
Mhm.
But in that process, that doesn't mean be soft. That doesn't mean,
No.
because I think we all have, and I'll end with this, or I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. I think we all are like the super friends. You wouldn't ask, you know who the Super Friends are, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right. Or maybe the Avengers for you young kids.
I don't know how old you think I am, but yeah, or how young you think I am. I'm like,
I'm this many.
Jordan Peterson said I hit the wall. Wait a second.
Wait, what?
I'm just making the joke how they always talk about, like, Red Pill is always like, women, you hit the wall at 22. Like, yeah.
Oh, Jesus. Is that what you are? Why do I even have you on my
No,
show?
I'm
Okay.
not 22. I'm just joking about how, like, I'm just making a joke.
You wouldn't ask Superman to talk to dolphins. And you wouldn't
No.
ask Aquaman to scale tall buildings in a single bound. We all have our strengths. Do what feels right to you. So, like, I have a friend as an example who's an awake ass motherfucker, and he's in the depths of it. He's in San Francisco, and his soul, what he does is do shamanic and like spiritual healing with individuals on a singular basis. I'm out here saying, "Eat ass, motherfucker!" Like that's the way. That's my goal.
Cool. Just
that's
don't
my
become
strength.
a commie.
Wait, what?
You're like, eat ass, but don't become a commie.
Right. Oh, that's a new Peter Feliciano shirt. Yeah, I did call it. I did actually come up with this shirt: patriotism and ass eating. But that's the thing; it's hard to get people to. Anyway, this shirt is a lot more agreeable. Ladies and gentlemen, where can people find you, Layla, aka Propaganda Fluent?
You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on YouTube at Propaganda Fluent. Like, we're gonna become fluent in this because we have to. They want to be convinced, and why don't we just convince them instead of the people who may or may not be, sacrificing babies or something, whatever the QAnon has been saying.
Right.
We know they're not good, and we know their objective is to remove all individual freedom. So let's maybe work against that and do what's necessary.
Awesome. Wherever you're listening, make sure you subscribe, boys and girls, and theys. And you can find me on Instagram at Peter_Feliciano. You can find me on TikTok at Peter_Feliciano. You can find me on Twitter at Rule62Peter and online at PeterFeliciano.com. I love you very much, everybody, and I'll end the recording now. Bye. Where am I? Oh, there I am.